What do you want me to read again? Okay, let me get my glasses. The views, opinions, and comments expressed on this podcast by its hosts do not reflect the views or opinions of their employers, past, present, or future. The topics covered in this podcast, as well as the language used, may not be suitable for all ages. Cover the young ones' ears. Please keep an open mind, and remember, it's just three geeks talking.
You are listening to the Geeks and Gripes Podcast with Dex, Rich, and Mike. And now, let's get our show started.
Hello, world. This is our fourth episode of the Geeks and Gripes Podcast. You can follow us on social media using @Geeks and Gripes on Twitter, Geeks and Gripes pretty much everywhere else, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can now find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I'm still working on getting the Android stuff running. I apologize if you don't find us in the Android platform. On top of that, we're still working on www.geeksandgripes.com, so I apologize for that. Eventually, my leg! So today we have a special guest. He goes by Chibi1. Welcome, Chibi1. Please introduce yourself and tell us what has made you a geek and how long you have been a geek for.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on. I'm just a huge Star Wars fan ever since I was a kid. Anime, comic books, D&D, anything nerd related. You tell me about it and I can tell you a story for an hour. That's about it.
He can literally talk about anything for an hour. I can vouch for that. I've never met anybody who knows more about Star Wars or have more opinions and gripes about Star Wars. So I think he's a good guest to have here on the show today.
We accept you. We accept you. One of us. One of us.
Google gobble google.
So very important. If you did hear our first episode, here's kind of why we were on a hiatus in a way. It has nothing to do with us having no funding and for extra storage or anything about the holidays, and that's not actually true.
It's much worse. It's a crime. It's a travesty. I felt like I've been betrayed and lied to all my life because of it.
So apparently, I actually did lose my geek card because I had not either watched a single movie of Star Wars or Star Trek. And apparently, kind of like when you play Pokemon Go, you're supposed to choose a faction.
Yes,
and I had not chosen one, and I lost my geek card. So I took it upon myself to first go through that anger period and wanting to wreck everything about the Geek Association. But then I sat down, I was like, you know what? They're right. I should choose a faction. So I actually sat down and watched the original trilogy. It happened. I saw it. And now so many memes on the internet make sense to me now.
Welcome.
You have grown. You gained a level, my friend.
Welcome back. We'll make sure your geek card is delivered to you. A little note will be placed on it. Your record will be wiped clean. And now that you know the memes, you are obligated to contribute to them.
It's a trap.
There we go. Thank you.
I saw that so many times as a meme, and I'm like, it didn't mean anything to me. That one actually does mean something to me.
Now you know. Knowing is half the battle. Go, Joe.
So I get my geek card, and I can finally start recording this show with the authority of actually being part of the geeks part of our podcast name.
Well,
You know,
you have just been introduced to the universe of Star Wars. There's gonna be a lot of things thrown out today that are way beyond any of the
Oh,
trilogies.
oh yeah. So
I
basically for all the non Star Wars fans out there, what the hell are you waiting for? But no, more realistically, you might hear terms. We'll try to explain any term that is something that just a Star Wars fan would know. For example, the Legends universe is all the stories that came before the mouse. Oh boy, decided to buy Star Wars and look at those stories and go like, nah, that didn't happen. So
So quick note,
Hmm?
quick note. Since we use the mouse, in parody law, if you're going to use unlicensed a character from you know who, we must add commentary, and the commentary for that imitation means Mickey sucks.
yeah, you can ask a lot of Star Wars fans; they'll agree. But yeah, so basically the canon quote unquote universe for the Disney acquired trademark, all that good stuff. Star Wars is anything movie related, certain comics, certain graphic novels, any novel that was written after the acquisition, and I think some video games, not all of them.
Well,
So
Rebels and Clone Wars.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Don't
that's
forget
that's
about it.
that's considered like a visual media, like animated stuff like that.
So if you guys haven't noticed by now, today's topic will be Star Wars in recognition of the latest movie that has been released on theaters.
The
Watch it.
Rise of Skywalker, or as everybody else calls it, hey, we're done.
Oh man, this is just the beginning.
And full
See.
disclosure, there's gonna be some spoilers.
Oh yeah,
Just
spoiler alert, spoiler alert. You have been warned. Do not, and I repeat, do not go into the comments section going like, I didn't know that. Well, we got a warning, didn't we?
and we gave
You
them
were-
time.
you
Come on,
warned.
if you haven't watched it by now,
It's a 2 week rule. It's
Yeah.
like if you haven't watched it in 2 weeks, that's on you.
You know, I feel like you should really take that title for that movie into context. The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, we'd have to go real deep into the spoilers for that one.
Well, a lot of Star Wars movies have different meanings. That's part of the Star Wars lore is that you have so many different threads that make just a huge blanket. You know, you have to have everything in context. The Rise of Skywalker could mean one of 15 different things. You know, you have, if we're going into spoilers right out of the bat, you know, even Luke coming back as a Force ghost, realizing that he did wrong, that's him rising to the occasion. You have Kylo, which was literally thrown down a hole. He rose out of that hole. You know,
Well,
Rey,
to be
the
honest,
Skywalker.
to be honest, let's all admit this. The only reason he survived that fall is because he is Ben Swallow. He is that.
Man, did you see that guy, man? He's ripped.
Yeah,
he
we
did that.
we saw it in The Last Jedi. You know, he showed us his massive physique, and you know, he's a walking mass of muscle, and you know, the Emperor couldn't really dispose of him just by throwing him in a hole.
Reylo fans, man.
Ridiculous.
Reylo fans brought him back with the will of the Force. It was
Oh,
like,
God.
not yet.
Raylo. Oh God.
all for a kiss. All for a kiss.
We're not gonna go there.
I
So
guess we just did.
yeah, so for Mike, Raylo, I don't know if you know, Raylo is the ship name of Rey and Kylo. Their fans, quote unquote, are slightly less aggressive than a Tasmanian devil, but only slightly. Until you go against their ship, in which case they become more aggressive. To a point where even a Tasmanian devil is afraid of them.
I would compare them more with like African killer bees because they will swarm.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them will just swarm on you and just murder you.
Yeah, and instead of sending out a pheromone track so that, you know, the other bees can find their target, they'll go on Twitter and just be like, "Hey, DM this person." But honestly, the like, let's just go straight into it. What's everybody's opinion if everybody saw that? Mike, I know you're still in coming into it, but what's everybody's opinion about the Rise of Skywalker?
Okay, Chibi, you can start. I have a lot to say.
Well, I watched it about 3 times, and I had to because the first time it went by so fast. It was like it doesn't let you absorb anything, so I had to literally sit down and wait for moments to be able to see is what I saw the first time happen, and then by the third time that I watched it, it made a lot more sense. You feel that they tried, and I give it at least a good opinion on it. JJ had a tough time making it, but it was made. They could have gone a lot of ways with it, and they went with this one, but it could have been a lot worse.
Okay.
I just think that after episode 8, they had to pull the franchise from like such a deep hole that just bringing it back to like a positive view in my eyes was a big deal, and I think they did. I think it ended up in a positive view. I think that it's good. There's a lot that Star Wars fans will get that a lot of like the general public won't know or understand. You must have watched like Clone Wars, the cartoon series, and you would have to watch the Rebels cartoon series to really get and grasp a lot of like the little details. And hopefully we'll get some time to talk through some of those in a bit.
Okay. Honestly, I'm on the same boat. I liked it. I went in there with zero expectations. Most of my friends are really hardcore Star Wars fans, so I knew that they would love it. I went in there with, zero expectations. And honestly, I really liked it. I laughed in some parts, I cried in some parts, and the Leia scenes literally just hit me straight in the heart. And after watching it, I can literally say, without a shadow of a doubt, that my hatred for The Last Jedi increased tenfold. I like after watching this, I just hate The Last Jedi even more. Not even joking.
Okay, but I think that J.J. Abrams actually, I don't want to say disrespected, but he actually did enough like damage to Last Jedi to retcon and kind of pull back a lot of the things that Rian Johnson had done.
Well,
like,
the thing is, because Rian Johnson, okay, so basically the idea of this trilogy was we're gonna give us a movie to 3 different directors. We're gonna have a central storyline, and each director will showcase their respective segment of that storyline. Cool. J.J. Abrams started it. Wasn't bad. I liked it. The Force Awakens. I liked that movie. And then Rian Johnson took it, and in an interview, he stated that he wanted to subvert expectations. And by subvert expectations, I assume he meant use the script as a toilet paper roll. I don't know. And he brought so many things that honestly, I hate. I really hate, and not just not some stuff that people complained about, like the Snoke thing. I could care less about Snoke. I'm not even gonna lie, but
it was terrible.
Yeah, there were other things, like he took a character that had so much potential, like Phasma, and just crapped all over it. He completely ignored Finn, who in The Force Awakens we're like, oh crap, he's Force sensitive. Oh, he's a former stormtrooper. Oh, he defected. He had so much potential to kind of develop a story. Nah, screw it. We're gonna send him to a casino planet with this character because reasons. Yeah, no. I just hate The Last Jedi even more now.
There is a dark force inside of Disney, and she has a lot more control than a lot of other people do in these movies. And Ryan Johnson was put in there basically as a puppet. You know, it's like, do what I want you to do, have a little bit of fun, but these messages have to come across.
Well,
And
yeah,
he did what he asked to.
because I'll be completely honest. I'll be completely honest. One of the worst parts of The Last Jedi was that Admiral. What was her name? I don't.
Holdo.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
she's that unmemorable that I don't care about her name. So
Purple hair girl.
no, honestly, like you could have taken the same role that she took in kind of like humbling Poe, but just have done it with Leia, exclusively with Leia. Leia be sort of a mother, because that's what Leia's been doing. She's been sort of a mother to Rey. She's been an inspiration to Poe. We'll have her teach him that lesson. Don't just have this random new character who we're supposed to believe is an amazing commander, and she's treating him like garbage. Why? Because he's a hotshot? Okay. Teach
He needed to learn
him to
humility.
be a hotshot.
You know, when you're a general, you need to know that sometimes you have to follow orders, man. You know, for instance, her sacrifice at the end, it could have been done by a droid.
Yes.
This droid push this button while I go on the thing and leave, but she stayed behind. So, you know, you gotta give her a little bit of credit.
No,
No,
not really.
no credit.
No,
No,
not really.
no.
It's called the Holdo maneuver now. That's famous.
Yeah, and
She did
Poe
something that
Poe
was
showed us that, you know, the Holdo maneuver is garbage because he can just light skip jump through different planets because
That angered me so much.
But it was from Rebels. Come on.
Look, I understand, but the whole thing about lights jumping is you need to calculate it. They took something that's a concept
or
in other Star Wars movies was complicated. Like, look at when Han had to do it. It had to take a minute to calculate it in his mind to be able to do it.
or
He just went for it.
or be an amazing pilot like Poe is.
Like Poe.
I get it that, you know, Han was an amazing pilot as well. Like, let's be honest, the stuff he did was legendary. But since, you know, they killed him off in the first movie, he couldn't be there to teach Poe, so we just have to learn that Poe is awesome. And again, that's another thing that I really liked about The Rise of Skywalker. It gave Poe a backstory, basically, and the dynamic between him and Finn was like their romance is the stuff of legends. That's what we need more of.
Yeah, they make a good cop movie, both of them. But, you know, you got to think about it. If you have a person like Holdo that's in charge, right? She's supposed in Star Wars lore, she's known Leia since she's a kid. So that's one of the new books that came out, the Leia book. It explains a little bit more about their relationship and how they grew up. But Poe in The Last Jedi, he stood in front of a dreadnought with his X-Wing and BB-8. That X-Wing had a prototype engine on it. They didn't know if it was going to work or not. So he ran that thing. It was the fastest X-Wing in X-Wing history. He broke a record that day. Nobody said anything about that. You have to read a comic to know about that. But he broke a record, the fastest X-Wing ever. He stood in front of a dreadnought, bro. He blew all that stuff up by himself. And then
I'm sure you can ask Ryan Johnson and he wouldn't know that you just said. He wouldn't care. Like like all of this is like garbage that was never intended for Last Jedi. They just like it was just crappy.
Hey, Mike.
I think we can just like move on
Mike,
from Last Jedi.
Mike, are you taking notes? You better be taking notes. You will be quizzed.
I thought I was going to be quizzed on the trilogy by itself.
Oh yeah, eventually.
You know what, Mike? What did you think about Star Wars? What did you like? You watching it for the first time after seeing memes and all these things. What did you feel watching it?
Well, that's an interesting question. I started watching the trilogy with no expectations. I have to be honest. I am not a sci-fi person at all. I've only watched the previously. I mean, I've only watched the Star Trek movie with Zachary Quinto in it. which I now heard doesn't count as Star Trek either.
Yeah, the whole alternate universe, blah blah blah, all that.
Right. So I came in with the zero expectations. I understand the movie was made in the 1970s, so I was impressed a lot by how they pulled off a lot of the things they did in the 1970s. The
Well,
first movie, obviously, I came with no background. I decided to watch the original trilogy first because that's how everybody else got to start seeing Star Wars. So I don't think it would have been fair for me to see any prequel. Um, I felt the movie was exactly an intro to this universe. You saw Luke and his uncle and aunt. Uh, you get this Ben Kenobi introduced to you. You start seeing like this whole concept of an empire. I felt strange how they strayed away from. I don't know if it changed, but strayed away from the empire being kind of like a board of directors in a way. Uh, from to the second episode where a second movie where we see Darth Vader kind of somewhat take over the role of just one evil person and controlling a giant army. But I felt that first movie was, I felt that vibe that they're trying to introduce us to this universe or universes, and that's how I felt about it. But I was completely taken off or impressed by how they pull all these still graphic movements in the 1970s. Then I went on to see the second movie, and now is when I start feeling that, okay, now I'm starting to see why other people are drawn to it. This is just a small piece of an entire universe that I have still yet to know in its entirety. And the continuation factor of them is alluring because it leaves those cliffhangers that are so needed from you to skip from one episode to another, regardless if it's in a movie or a TV format. So that was entirely impressive. And as the movies got older, closer to the modern day era, it's still the 1970s, but I'm still taken off by how well those still graphic animations have gone. So I've seen it for its artistic value. I liked the story, and I liked how the movie, the original movie trilogy ended. I think it was kind of quick. They went from rescuing Han to, well, I don't know technically got the kill there for Vader. I guess the Emperor counted there, but that was kind of quick in my opinion. But I felt the same way as when I finished a Legend of Zelda game before the whole timeline thing got, let me put this in air quotes, explained by Nintendo.
Clarified.
Yeah, whatever. And that's a feeling I got. I'm impressed. I'm taking this in the best way possible for a person that, I'm really not a sci-fi fan. For some oddball reason, I am not a fan of sci-fi. But I think it's the best of that genre that I've ever seen before, honestly. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
I still have
all
yet
about
to
the
watch
storytelling, man.
Yeah.
The storytelling is just amazing. The fact that it's like a tiny like atom in this like huge universe. So many things are happening. You would have to sit back and just read like, okay, so this happened 35 years before this, and this, like, they were like born here, and they were like the same age as these other two. And you start kind of piecing together. Okay, so Luke and Leia are at the same age as like Ezra, right? Sabine was a little bit older.
Also, you have to take into consideration that when the originals came out, none of that stuff was written. Like, he just had an idea in his head of what the universe was what like this big story.
But it would spark.
He had planned, but also going into the technological aspect, he invented a ton of filming techniques just to make Star Wars.
Yep.
Industrial light and magic.
They push technology forward, like just like movie technology. They push it forward like maybe a decade. Like, they were really ahead of their time, And even today, you have to sit back and just like enjoy that the troubles that they went through to get like speeders or like like the ratios of like a big mech versus humans, like all of that, like just the magic of that is amazing.
Miniatures.
So I have a question though. I remember when I was somewhere like, I don't know, 14, 15 probably. I was talking to somebody who already saw Star Wars, and I think this was just before, actually. Now I don't remember my age then, but it was just before the first episode, the one with the Phantom Menace. Um, he told me that day, and this is probably 20 years ago. I don't know when that movie went out. I don't have the date here at hand. He told me that Star Wars was originally or intended, sorry, not originally, intended to be 9 episodes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Lucas always had that vision in mind. Basically, after he did the original trilogy, he came back, did the prequels, kind of like set up the whole Vader storyline, how he became where he was, all that. After that, movies weren't really in his like vision, but all the novels that came out expanded the universe so much more, and then the mouse appeared.
Wait, and just a small like tangent. Like the idea that Michael remembers something that happened when he was 15, like just to clarify, he does have eidetic memory. Just something I wanted to throw in.
It's not as perfect as it used to be, but yeah, I remember who the person was, and he told me, it's like straight up, Star Wars is meant to be 9, and what's coming out is the first prequel before the trilogy. I was like, so this whole 9 episode thing was like
So
an idea for.
originally, Star Wars was just one movie. Star Wars was something that George Lucas had to get out of the film guild to be able to make, because he wanted to use certain elements that film guilds didn't approve back then. And between him and his wife, they edited and they shot the movie. But with the popularity of Star Wars, they demanded more. So that's why he had to come in and invent more, because he gave. First of all, Vader didn't have the Luke, I'm your father thing in the beginning. That came later.
Well, yeah, but the funniest part is that I think it was Mark Hamill, and James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader. When they were doing the first sit down read, nobody knew about that. Mark Hamill says that when he read that, he was like, "Wait, what? What?" And they had to keep it quiet from everybody, because that was one of the big reveals where it was gonna be like, "Wait, what? What, George? What the heck are you talking about?"
Yeah, it was interesting. There's a Mandela effect about that now.
Pretty much. Oh, and one funny fact: the studios or the film company that basically backed Lucas's vision for the original Star Wars had so little faith in it that they were okay with letting George Lucas have the rights to all merchandise and toys, because they figured, nobody's gonna buy anything. Yeah.
He needed money to finish it. Steven Spielberg bet him to see if the movie was gonna work or not, and he helped out. He gave him actual money to do it, and Steven Spielberg made a lot of money back after that.
Oh,
That's
yes.
why they're still friends.
Oh, yes.
Even like the actor for like Obi-Wan, like he did like an awesome deal in his contract. Like he didn't even complete that whole movie. Like he was just there in the first one, well, 4, and he passed it to all like his kids and grandkids. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They're still making like millions nowadays with like through Disney, like all of their like his like lineage. It's awesome.
You got a great loyalty clause in that contract then.
Well, the studios didn't think it was gonna make money. The studios thought it was gonna be one movie that would tank, because nobody had really done anything similar in a sense. It's basically an epic, like an old Greek epic, but in space.
I see a lot between the first Star Wars and the Mandalorian. I see that the studio had no faith in the Mandalorian. They gave them a small budget, but they gave them the right people to do it, and it became this overnight sensation.
Well,
Star Wars has been having a problem with merch for years now.
Yep.
And it's the first time that people are going crazy over anything Star Wars.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. So here's the funniest part, though. The creative control over Star Wars has been passed from Kathleen Kennedy to Jon Favreau, the guy in charge of The Mandalorian.
Which is awesome. He actually brought Dave Filoni for the first episode.
Yep.
Dave Filoni is the best brain after George Lucas. Anybody who has ever been involved in Star Wars, it is George Lucas, then Dave Filoni.
Yep.
There's nobody that even gets close.
So the funniest thing is that what I'm hoping, because every single episode of The Mandalorian had a different director. What I'm hoping is that since they basically cast aside the Game of Thrones duo that was originally going to be in charge of the next trilogy, that Jon Favreau can go oh, by the way, you see these directors that I had for The Mandalorian, the show that everybody liked? Yeah, these are my new directors for the movies.
Dave Filoni. He give everything to him. He would do an awesome job.
He should be a filter. You should pass everything through him first for an approval, and once he says yes on it, then...
He's a genius. He absorbed everything Star Wars, and just everything that comes out of that man's brain is just gold. It's amazing.
This is the way.
When they were making Clone Wars. So this guy, he invented so much of the Star Wars lore. I don't understand why they never gave him more prominence in the movies.
Yep.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh my God, yes. But just to be clear, even in Rise of Skywalker, going back to the last movie, there were so many little details that were part of things that Dave Filoni or other legends there were little respect scenes when Rey has this contact with the snake, the giant snake. That is something that Ezra did in Rebels, and you would go back to
that's something.
Even the last scene.
That's something Baby Yoda did. That's
okay, but Ezra did it first.
I know,
Ezra
but that's the funniest part. Is Ezra did it, Baby Yoda did it, Rey does it, and when Rey does it, some people are like, "Oh, what? How could she do that?" It's the Force. You use your Force, and you just need it.
It's respect to Ezra, it's respect to that scene. It's respect to Rebels. Rebels is part of the canon, and a lot of people will never know because it's cartoons, right? But even the scene where Rey is dressed in white and Kylo is dressed in black. She's representing the light side. He's representing the dark side. This goes back to the Mortis family back in Clone Wars. The fact that she controls life and he controls death. All of that ties back so wonderfully. If you have seen all of these series that nobody will ever watch because they were cartoons, but it's actually amazing Star Wars lore, and that is part of a lot of what a lot of people will miss in all of this.
Well, no, there's a lot of things So, a lot of people won't understand the Palpatine thing. How is he back? Again, spoilers. But if you read the old lore, if you read the Legends lore, you would know that, this was expected. Because Palpatine never really trusted anybody. He knew that a Sith apprentice will destroy a Sith master. That is how they do it. That's the rule of two. And the problem was, he's nah, I'm good. I don't want to die. So he had, Palpatine had backup plans upon backup plans for when his apprentice would destroy him. Because he figured, he's going to do it eventually. Hell, there was one comic where, basically in the comics, the Vader comics, you know that Vader had been literally plotting to take over and kill Palpatine for almost all the time he was with him. Once he knew that his son was alive and that his son was powerful in the Force, he's okay, I'll have my boy, and we'll rule the galaxy as father and son. But like Palpatine was informed of this, and instead of attacking Vader, he laughed. He's like, "Oh, my apprentice is kind of ambitious. I like that. Yeah, I like you, kid."
Well, Palpatine never had a lot of faith in Vader. He wanted Anakin. You know, he got Vader, but his true goal was to have Anakin in his full power. Vader was very limited.
But it was limited because also Palpatine like limited him in the armor. Like the suit itself limited Vader's power.
Well, he fixed that later. Vader, remember, Anakin's very tech savvy. He built C-3PO. Shoot, I thought there was gonna be like an Anakin reveal when they were talking about the Sith and like going into his memory. I thought there was gonna be like a transmission from Anakin saying something about where the Sith, whatever they were looking for, the Wayfinder or whatever they were trying to find. That would have been legit.
No, I'll be honest. When I saw the trailers and I saw that part, and then I saw C-3PO with his red eyes, for a moment I'm like, oh, 000's gonna come in. Well, everybody's dead.
That would be super legit.
That's what everybody was expecting, to be honest. But I just wanted to like say like a funny story. Like years back, we were talking, Shibi and I were talking, and he likes the Legends universe. I say like if it's not in a movie or in any visual media, it's not canon. So he was talking to me about like how Palpatine had all of these clones and how he could control full airships, like full like navies,
battle meditation,
and like to do battle meditation. I said like that is OBS. Somebody came out, that's fan art, and to see that they actually implemented that in a movie, that the respect that they showed to all of these artists from 30 years ago.
He was doing it in Revenge. What was it? Return of the Jedi.
But it was not explicit. They never specified it explicit. Somebody had this idea in a book and they brought it up. But the fact that you were talking about like cloning and all of that, like that he had clones of himself and he would survive, and all of this actually is now canon, and that's something that we were laughing, like I was just like laughing at it like years back. And the fact that they actually paid enough respect to like the Legends universe and what other people were thinking and what a lot of the fans knew and nobody else did, I think that it was a two-bladed sword. All the fans really loved it, because if you really know Star Wars, you knew all of this was already like written. It was just not part of like the canon. But at the same time, all of these like new age Star Wars fans were expecting, Reylo and all this like really
women kissing.
Yeah. So the idea that they paid, like J.J. Abrams paid so much respect to like the true Star Wars fans, that if you had read Legends, if you knew about all of these like old books, if you watch Clone Wars, if you watch Rebels, all of these like little elements, that's what I liked about the movie. Like you really had to sit down and talk through like a lot of like, even the scene when Rey is like bouncing back the lightning at Palpatine. Like I thought about Mace immediately. Like it just brought back a lot of like memories and a lot of like things that I never thought I would see in the big screen.
I'll be honest. Like, I really, really wish that JJ had been in charge of The Last Jedi.
Everybody does.
Like, I really want to see what he could have done with that, what he would have done different. And there are some things about The Last Jedi I'm kind of sad that we didn't see a resolution to. For example, we didn't really get to see a side of the third faction in Star Wars, so to speak. The bounty hunter, the scum, the villains, the people who are like they don't side with anybody, they side with whoever has the money. That was one aspect that I really would have liked to have seen kind of showcased, because like scum characters have had
They
pretty deep impact.
And Rose to the First Order.
Yeah, and I think I'm hoping that the Mandalorian is going to bring a lot of that out.
It should.
Mandalorian is like this underworld kind of thing.
It should.
And then I think, yeah, it should bring a lot of that out.
Because honestly, they are basically the third faction. They're the faction that's, they don't care about your hokey religions. They don't care about light or dark side. Pay them the money, they'll do the job. That's it. That was the allure of Boba Fett back in the original trilogy. Like Boba Fett in the original trilogy had what, 6 lines? 5?
5 lines.
But look at Bosk and what was and IG-88, like they were nobody.
Exactly.
They are like
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like the bounty hunter scene in the original trilogy when Vader contracts these bounty hunters. Like you see all of them, you're like, can I know about them? Like I'd like to know about them. And hell, even Boba Fett, we really didn't know much, but we knew that just by looking at him, yeah, he's a dangerous mofo. Like he will definitely hurt somebody.
That's the best
And
thing
we
about
we kind of got an expanded version of that, not only through the prequel trilogy, but also through Clone Wars and through like Rebels and all that. But it's a side that they had a good idea in The Last Jedi. They just executed it very, 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 very poorly.
Was that enough berries?
Yeah, just think about Cad Bane. Cad Bane is an
No,
amazing character.
exactly.
Like I would have loved to see a lot more of Cad Bane.
Cad Bane, he's scum. He works with the dark side. He saved Obi-Wan at one point. He is scum. He does things his own way, and you really don't want to try to control him, or bad things will happen to you.
I wanted to see more of Hondo.
Hondo's awesome. Hondo is an awesome character.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Star Wars, it gives you like this little snippet. It's up to you to look for more, and it's there. You just got to go and find it. And it's the people that go out and find it are the people that I consider that actually like it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to go on a date night to go see the big blockbuster movie that came out and not understand anything that's going on. It's just you went on a date and be able to tell your friends, hey, I went to go see Star Wars. Versus the guy that's been reading comic books, playing video games, pays for Disney Plus. Right now you have The Mandalorian. It's gonna come out when? In September? Next season?
Fall 2020. So
you imagine little baby Yoda with a little Mandalorian helmet and some Mando armor on? Like,
every ovary within a good section of the hemisphere would explode. It was dude, I kid you not. Like we would have like little viewing parties for it. Every time Baby Yoda did something like cute,
anything
like my friends
have screen time.
would literally go, oh, like ovaries would just implode from the cuteness.
No, I want to see a Darth Baby Yoda. You see, one of my friends pointed it out to me. He's super observant.
Yeah.
If you notice, in every scene that he's in, he's watching everything that's going down, and he's used both sides of the Force.
Yeah, well, that think of it this way. That's the potential and scary part of it. What happens when you take a Force-sensitive youth and put him with the dark side? He becomes a Sith. What happens when you put him with the light side? He becomes a Jedi. What happens when you put him a bounty hunter? Huh.
The third faction.
No, a Grey Walker, basically. It's a Grey Walker. They're neither dark nor light because the Force isn't either. The Force is just the Force. It's whoever uses it. Which is why in the prequels, Mace Windu in the Clone Wars cartoon could use a Force Crush. Basically,
his lightsaber.
Mace Windu gave Grievous a nice little chest tickle with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And that.
Well, but Mace, like what Chibi just mentioned was really relevant. Like, Mace sword fighting technique required him to like just be one edge from being in the dark side.
Well, yeah, but that's the beauty of Mace. He was that close to being not the dark side, just a Grey Walker. He understood that, hey, sometimes to get stuff done, you need to be a little aggressive. Technically, Obi did that on Mustafar when he relieved Anakin from some of his limbs from the high ground. He used a Sith technique. That technique that he used to cut off the arm and the leg is a Sith technique, a Sith fighting technique. And Jedi were never supposed to use it. But at that point, Obi-Wan's like, well, kind of need to.
Well, he told him not to try it.
He warned him he had the high ground.
Exactly!
And just a little trivia, and I don't know if anybody remembers, but what was that Force beast in Rebels that wasn't light or dark? That they go back and ask for advice a couple of times. Anybody remember his name?
No, man, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like Guru or something like that. Like that guy was like, it just showed that it was a third branch of the Force. He was a Force like being, but he wasn't either light or dark, and he represented both at some point.
It's like you were talking about the Mortises. That's that whole concept. You have the light side, which was represented by the sister, and you had the dark side that was represented by the brother, but the father watched over both of them. So in the Clone Wars, when I think it's Ahsoka dies first, and then the brother kills the sister, I think, and before she dies, she passes the last of her life force to Ahsoka. And that's why the little owl is always with her, is a representation of her.
Mm-hmm. And it opened up, like, Ahsoka just inherited the light side of the Force, like the whole light side of the Force. She inherited, like, the Sister Mortis power. So that was something that was left open. And it was something, like, it was interesting. Shiva and I were talking earlier about all the voices that talk to Rey at the end of the movie. And he mentioned that Ahsoka was there. I didn't hear it when I saw the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But that would mean that Ahsoka is dead. But there's a lot of hints, especially from Filoni himself, that she is not dead. So where or what happened to Ahsoka? Ahsoka is one of the best created characters in the Star Wars universe. She's
probably a lot more connected to the Force than anybody else.
Anybody else, yes. And something interesting as well is that Ezra wasn't in it, right?
Yeah, I looked it up. I wanted to find out if Ezra had said anything to her, and there was nothing said by him. So that could also mean that he's still alive.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and some of the initial leaks for Rise of Skywalker had Ezra he had some props on set. So
okay, so
part of the intention.
You guys do realize that the ghost was in the big.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So basically, we had the ghost. Maybe it was the ghost. Maybe it was just a ship.
No, it was the ghost.
It was the ghost.
We had
in Rogue One, like Chopper was in Rogue One.
Yeah, we had a Fang, so Fen Rao could have been there. Assuming he's alive. I don't remember if he's alive.
I was looking for Ahsoka, and I didn't see it.
No, but
Feng Rao would be too old, I think.
Yeah, you never know.
Rao would have been
It's a Mando though.
Fen is Fen.
Mandalorians. How do Mandalorians age? Do they age slower?
No, they're just people. But a Mandalorian could have been there. You know, they have.
Yeah.
Been
Well, yeah.
We don't know. That's the funny part, because the Mandalorian is happening between Episode 6 and Episode 7.
Yep.
So we don't know what could. It could have been Daddy Mando in the Fang. Well, we don't know.
That would be awesome.
Well, I think Sabine went with Ahsoka at the end to go find Ezra.
And Thrawn.
And Thrawn, bro.
Thrawn.
Why hasn't Thrawn showed up again?
Thrawn is one.
Going from that.
Ahsoka's up there and Thrawn.
Going from that, everybody caught up on The Mandalorian?
I haven't seen the last two.
Then we will not speak of it.
All right. We'll
I am a proponent of not spoiling something.
Yeah,
killed that
I'm
for the
almost
last 45 minutes, by the way.
That's what happens when geeks talk about Star Wars. So basically now, Mike, your next homework to gain a nice little golden Death Star on your geek card is to watch episode 1, 2, and 3. And
I was gonna see one of my flights, but apparently it ended too quick for me to start one. So
well, now you have to see it. So you can also be cursed like the rest of us with
See,
knowledge of what a Gungan is.
Gungans ain't
God.
that bad, man.
Oh, we've had this conversation so many times.
No,
like Jar Jar is like,
no.
Misa,
Again.
Misa don't know what
No,
you're
no.
talking about.
No, man. You have to go into true Star Wars lore to understand what was going on there.
Oh,
you should explain. Like most probably Dex knows about it, but yeah,
No.
go ahead, expand.
what-
What was Jar Jar all about?
Well,
Chibi?
technically Jar Jar was supposed to be Sith.
Ah, yes, there we go.
Technically, Jar Jar was
It's not
supposed
a
to be
spoiler.
like a Sith master,
Think about it though.
and it would,
Siths are masters at deception.
yeah, exactly.
Would
No,
you ever
that
expected that from
No,
him?
I wouldn't.
Of
Like,
course.
basically,
Bro, his
basically,
eyes are yellow. He's in the middle of the landing, exactly where Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan show up. He takes them down into the Gungan palace. Everybody sees him, is like, oh, it's Jar Jar, oh no, and they run away from him. You know, as a clumsy guy is one thing, but for people to run away from you in fear is another thing.
no. I'm sorry. There's one. It's one thing to be clumsy. It's another to survive an entire battle just out of your
The Force. The Force, bro. Think about it.
exactly.
it explains. He was really like lucky, or he had the
No,
Force
man,
on his side.
there is no luck in the Star Wars universe, man. It's the Force. That's what I say.
So
A lot of people don't talk.
now you have to see the beauty that is Gungans and Jar Jar, and
He's gonna watch it. He's gonna be like, Chibi was right.
The battle scenes were pretty good. Like I'll give you that. Like the whole battles
The
and stuff
movie
were
is-
like nice. Like
Bro,
like
that
the
movie
whole
is so good. I don't know why people don't like it.
the races were crappy.
The pod races
the
were
pod
crappy. Are you
races was,
crazy?
like crap.
Bro.
I didn't like that movie. Like
Also-
the Gungans,
Also-
pod
I was
racing.
like,
another thing. I'll be completely honest. I do not fault Hayden Christensen for his performance. I fault the writers. Because anytime
Lucas-
Hayden Christensen is not talking, but he's acting like through emotion, like if he's angry, if he's happy, if he's like worried, he does a good job. It's when he has to read those lines like "I hate sand." That
I think Natalie Portman was the one that wasn't doing good acting.
Really?
Look at it, right? Because there are parts where Anakin is giving it his all, and she's like, meh. And she's supposed look the love that Anakin and Amidala
Padme. Yeah.
Padme they have is legit, man. They break Jedi code to do it. The way they get married, man, is so. I like the Clone Wars version, the cartoon one, better, but the one in the movie was okay.
The one in the movie was pretty good.
Wow, it's been what?
But yeah, honestly, Star Wars is one of those staples of geek culture that love it or hate it. Honestly, it's just part of it. I am
It's gonna live on forever.
kind of disappointed in the fandom on multiple sides, not just on one side, because basically this new franchise, like these new movies, really divided the fandom in a way that it really shouldn't. And also there were other forces out there that made things look worse than they were. But in the end, like, people just love it. People live for it. People, like, there's people that do entire weddings at Star Wars characters.
It's a way of life.
Yeah,
it's a way of
yeah,
life. That's
it's-
the best way to describe it.
it's a way of
Like,
life.
Once you go into Star Wars, like you start thinking differently. The universe, like galaxies far away, actually like have something in your brain. Like it just triggers something. You know, like looking at the Milky Way at night, it just says like like. Yeah, there's stuff happening over there. There's like some space battles. There's some like Wookiees. It just broadened your horizons.
Just remember, it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, or as Granny would say it, my teen years.
Well, Mike, you have your homework. What do you think about Star Wars now that you've heard us ranting about it?
Well, I think the first thing that comes into mind is like I now just heard that the Mandalorian, which is the current media endeavor for that universe, takes place between episode 6 and 7. What's going to go happen now after the quote unquote final end quote movie has finished? Is there more to come, or is
Well,
everything just going to be built around it?
well, according to the plan, like the original plan, again before the whole kerfuffle happened with the Game of Thrones guys and whatever, the whole plan was this movie, Episode 9, finished the whole Skywalker saga from Episode 1 all the way to this. And then from the next trilogy would be a whole new story, whole new characters, whole new everything. Probably set like years or decades in the future. So are they going to keep doing that? Who knows?
Or, fingers crossed, is Ahsoka and Sabine finding Ezra and Thrawn. That would be amazing.
Totally unbiased desire, huh?
Yep. But just to be fair, like Last Jedi did something. Like it proved that there were other Force users in the universe. Like the Broom Kid, like he's been talked about like across like forums and whatnot.
Oh God, Broom Boy.
Like, yeah, Broom Kid. So he could be a Jedi. Like Ezra could teach him. Like it's.
Well, the Force is always out there. Like even if Jedi's aren't out there, even if Sith aren't out there, the Force is always there.
Yep.
So everybody has a little bit of it. It's just how much do you manifest it,
Baby Yoda teaches the Broom Boy.
Baby Yoda's gonna just carry this whole franchise on his back for the next 100 years.
See, this is a good example of you don't need to be inclusive in the standard way to include. Apparently, the female population loves Baby Yoda.
Yep, they definitely do.
It's Baby Yoda. He's the most cute thing since I can't even think of anything.
Yoda.
It's Baby Yoda. It's the cutest thing ever, man.
Now the bar has been raised.
Yeah, cuteness level. Like he created like millions of memes immediately. Like once it was like the first episode came out, like the memes flew through the internet.
That I saw.
So and something else, Mike. Like you have kids. Like the idea of just sitting down and watching the whole Clone Wars, starting with the movie and Rebels, with your kids, it's a bonding experience. You'll be like bringing them into Star Wars the right way, man.
It's a good way to come into Star Wars.
Yeah,
This is
Clone
the way.
Wars and Rebels are amazing pieces of work.
It's maybe like 30 episodes out of all of them that are good. Then all the other ones are like fillers. But
it's for kids. Kids will love them. Like the little the episode with like Ahsoka training all the like the younglings. That was a cute episode. Like a kid would love that episode.
I'm sorry. I'm part of the dark side. Anytime I hear younglings, all I hear is Order 66.
oh, no.
I don't know. I've tried. Now that I saw a trilogy, I tried to get my kid into it, and he still is not wanting to go into it yet.
We'll start with the cartoons. Forget the movies. Start with the cartoons. They're awesome.
Have you ever thought about that if Anakin's lightsaber is the one that Rey uses, that's the youngling lightsaber?
The one that killed all the younglings?
Think about it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Technically, I mean, if
So she has a child murder weapon.
well, that's why she
Yeah.
Ariel.
Puts that thing to rest.
Oh, and the scene in Rise of Skywalker where Leia is completing her training, that was like amazing for me. Like I loved it. Come on,
Well,
she had her own lightsaber. That was awesome. I loved it.
yeah. Well, again, that's the thing. Like, if you went into like the back lore, everybody's like, oh, why is Leia sensitive in the Force? Because she's a Skywalker. She was never trained, actually. Yes, Luke trained her in the old novels. and
Yep.
he trained her. Now we confirmed that he trained her in this one, so she does know how to use the Force.
And it explains a little bit the Leia Poppin scene.
Well,
Just a little bit.
Well, yeah, but like, okay, so technically, a Force user can survive in the vacuum of space for a little while. That's what she did. She was there for a little while. It still took a lot out of her. She wasn't exactly a spring chicken anymore. But it depends, and it's why Luke could do the Force projection, but it killed him. He had sealed himself from the Force for so long that sudden rush of all the power, because Luke was one of the most powerful Jedi in existence. The sheer shock of all the Force coming back to him and him having to use it, yeah, it killed him. But the one thing that not everybody talks about is when a Jedi disappears, he's at peace. They're at peace with.
He becomes one with the Force.
They're one with the Force. They've become the Force. That's why Luke passed the way he passed. That's why Obi-Wan became one with the Force, and that's why in Rise of Skywalker, Leia and Ben went into the Force, because they were at peace finally.
And it was actually Qui-Gon Jinn who actually first discovered this, and Clone Wars actually showed that. Like he came.
Sisters taught it to him.
Yep, and then he came back to teach Yoda, who learned that from Qui-Gon Jinn. He was the first Jedi to discover this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, did anybody tell Ben how to do this, or Leia how to do this?
Well,
one thing interesting was
you don't need to know. That's the thing. You don't. The thing with that.
Well, it took Qui-Gon Jinn
training. You have to.
No.
Qui-Gon Jinn
to be
struggled to learn this.
Well, that sucks for him. But to become one with the Force, you have to be at peace, and that's why Leia.
But Jedi's before Qui-Gon Jinn couldn't do it.
Yeah, but because they didn't have that understanding.
So I guess it's something that Yoda would have taught like generations later, because he learned it from Qui-Gon according to Clone Wars. So I guess Yoda would have been teaching them how to become one with the.
Okay, if you want
Jedi afterwards.
If you want to go with that, simple. Yoda trained Luke. Luke trained Leia. Luke trained Ben. There, done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that explains everything. So now there's a Kylo Force Ghost.
Where was
somewhere.
he at the end of the movie to wave by Rey and stuff?
Ben Swallow, thank you very much.
It would have been legit if he would have been without a shirt and been like, "I'll see you around, Rey." But one of the interesting things about that was a lot of people talk about the scene when Han shows up to Kylo. When I was watching it, what I took from it was it wasn't Han, and it was Leia projecting herself as Han at that moment when it was most critical for her son, because she knew it, she felt it.
Honestly, I never thought it was Han in the sense of Force Ghost. I honestly just thought it was basically.
Well, it couldn't have been a Force Ghost because he wasn't blue.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's the lingering. It was just the lingering memory, the doubt that Ben.
But it was Leia.
With him.
Like Leia, that's why she actually died. She actually used the last of her life force to, I want to call it force project.
Just what
Luke did
with Kylo.
So it was very similar. Like he just
even touches. There's a scene where Han just touches his face, and he feels it, because he react. Well, I'm guessing he's an actor, so obviously he's gonna react to it. But that's something a mother would do. I don't see Han coming up to his son and caressing his son's face.
Dude, oh come on, man! You saw him in The Force Awakens. Like, he was close to that.
But Han isn't that sentimental type.
No,
you tell him you love him, he's like, I know.
Dude, no.
It's Harrison Ford, man.
I'm sorry, but Han Solo in The Force Awakens, you see that he the whole Ben going to the dark side changed him completely, and the possibility of him getting his son back or helping his son.
Well, his sacrifice was for that, so I'm not taking it away from Han that loved his son. But what I'm just saying is that the way you express that love, like Han isn't an expressive person.
Yeah, the fact that like Han wouldn't be the touching your face. Oh my God, you're my son. You know, it was more like a mother thing. That's what I think.
I debate that. I would.
I was just
in another episode because I honestly I think it's time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's Star Wars. Once you open this door, man, like it's a universe of talks and possibilities, man. Like it's amazing. We're like Chibi and I have spent like countless nights just talking about this shit.
Release the Kraken.
Yep.
Release the Kraken.
The drink? Okay.
So yeah,
Shots.
Mike, welcome to the you know, like the group of like fans. You're like a budding fan. Like you have to blossom and then like expand your knowledge. But you know, like this is a way of life. Once you open this door, you just have to keep absorbing.
He's a youngling.
Yeah.
You mean I'm gonna be murdered?
50-50.
It all depends.
Not if you're Baby Yoda.
They've tried though.
No. There's a difference between a youngling and a foundling.
Well, that's the Mando tradition.
Exactly. Foundling is Baby Yoda, and he is protected by Mando Daddy, and Mando Daddy will not let anybody touch him.
Yeah. So yeah, once I catch up with like Mandalorian, maybe that's gonna be a nice episode for the future. Like I'm pretty sure I'll be like I started like the new comics that are starting out, so I may have some new ideas in the next few months. So more to come.
All right, everyone. This is gonna be it for episode 4. Once again, you can follow us on Twitter by following the Twitter handle at Geeks and Gripes. Facebook, Instagram is going to be Geeks and Gripes as well. We're on YouTube. And again, we are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, you know, you're going to find us there as well. We look forward to hearing from you again. We do have a Patreon. It's going to be Geeks and Gripes as well. I haven't checked if we have Patreons, honestly, in a while. If you do, we will be so happy because I'm starting to get the fact that this is actually not cheap. So please support us. And again, if we do have a good amount of Patreons, we will find a way to make exclusive content for you. I know we will figure something out. But in the meantime, enjoy this and look forward for an episode 5 soon. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Thanks, Chibi, our guest, for joining us tonight as well.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. It's awesome to get a perspective, and this is not going to be the only Star Wars podcast. So feel free to join us on any other podcast that we discuss Star Wars or any other topic you're interested in. I don't mind. None of us mind anyway. Getting more perspective is the better. So for everyone listening, thank you for lasting all this time with us, and hope to hear from you on later episodes that will happen. I have my geek card now.
Finally, you have your geek card again.
Awesome.
See you around, guys.
See you around.
Laters.